The night was heavy with a sense of foreboding as I entered the old, decrepit mansion. Its dilapidated facade loomed over me, casting a haunting shadow in the moonlight. A chill ran down my spine, and a voice deep within me whispered to turn back, to abandon this ill-fated endeavor. But curiosity and a thirst for the macabre urged me forward into the heart of darkness. I had heard whispers of the mansion's dark past, rumors of unspeakable horrors and restless spirits that roamed its halls. Tales of tragedy and death that had shrouded the house in an aura of malevolence. As a lover of the macabre, I couldn't resist the lure of this haunted domain. I had to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. With each creaking step, the weight of the past pressed upon me. Dust danced in the air, stirred by my trespassing presence. The atmosphere grew suffocating, as if the house itself resented my intrusion. But I pressed on, guided by a mixture of fascination and dread. The deeper I ventured, the more I felt an unseen presence watching my every move. Whispers echoed through the corridors, faint yet distinct, chilling me to the core. Shadows danced along the walls, casting grotesque silhouettes that seemed to mock my audacity. In a moment of terror, I stumbled upon a hidden staircase, concealed behind a tapestry worn with age. It beckoned to me, a gateway to the secrets hidden within the mansion's depths. With trembling hands, I descended into the abyss, into a realm where reality blended with nightmare. The lower levels were engulfed in darkness, illuminated only by flickering candlelight. The air was thick with a scent I could not place, a mixture of decay and something more sinister. My heart pounded in my chest, its rhythm merging with the distant sound of dripping water. As I explored further, I discovered a hidden chamber, a room frozen in time, frozen in fear. It was adorned with macabre curiosities, an array of taxidermy animals, their glassy eyes staring into eternity. But it was the centerpiece that stole my breath, a life-size doll, its porcelain face twisted into a sadistic grin. A wave of unease washed over me, as if the doll's malevolence permeated the very air. Yet, I couldn't tear my gaze away. Its eyes, once glassy and vacant, now seemed to follow my every move. Fear coiled around my heart, constricting my breath, but I couldn't escape its haunting allure. Whispers rose from the depths of the chamber, growing louder, more distinct. They spoke of suffering, of pain, of a dark presence that fed on the souls trapped within this cursed house. I tried to flee, to escape the clutches of the doll's gaze, but the room seemed to shift, confining me in its nightmarish embrace. Time lost all meaning as I became a prisoner of the mansion's grip. Days merged into nights, and sanity slipped through my trembling fingers. Shadows danced before my eyes, their ethereal forms morphing into grotesque figures that whispered malevolently. In the darkest hour, when hope had all but abandoned me, I stumbled upon a worn journal, a testament to the horrors that had unfolded within these walls. Its pages were filled with accounts of torment, of desperate pleas for release from the clutches of the mansion's evil. Driven by a glimmer of desperation, I retraced the steps of those who came before me, following the cryptic instructions left behind. It led me to a hidden chamber, where a grotesque altar awaited, a gateway to the otherworldly horrors that lurked within. As I stood before the altar, surrounded by the spirits of the mansion's tormented past, a choice presented itself: surrender to the darkness that sought to claim me or fight for my very soul. With trembling resolve, I reached deep within, summoning the strength to defy the darkness. With a final surge of will, I shattered the cursed doll, severing the ties that bound it to this realm. In that moment, the mansion shook, its walls groaning in protest. A blinding light engulfed the chamber, erasing the darkness that had plagued it for centuries. When the light subsided, I found myself standing outside the mansion's gates, the weight of its horrors lifted from my shoulders. The mansion stood as a hollow shell, its secrets buried within. I vowed to never return, to leave its nightmarish legacy behind. But the chilling whispers still lingered in my ears, a reminder of the horrors I had witnessed. They echoed in the darkest recesses of my mind, a haunting symphony that would keep me up all night, forever etching this chilling tale into my very soul. The wind howled through the barren trees, creating an eerie symphony that sent shivers down my spine. It was a desolate night, the kind that had the power to awaken the dormant fears within us. Little did I know that this night would mark the beginning of a chilling horror that would haunt me for the rest of my days. I had recently moved into a quaint cottage nestled in the heart of a secluded forest. The solitude appealed to me, offering respite from the chaos of the city. The neighbors were scarce, and their distant homes seemed swallowed by the encroaching darkness. I reveled in the solitude, unaware of the terrors lurking just beyond my doorstep. It started innocently enough, an occasional tapping on the windows during the dead of night. At first, I dismissed it as mere branches swaying in the wind, their bony fingers reaching out for attention. But as the taps grew louder and more insistent, I could no longer deny that something sinister was at play. Curiosity mingled with dread as I ventured outside to investigate. The moonlight cast an ethereal glow, illuminating the twisted branches that clawed at the cottage's exterior. Shadows danced on the forest floor, seemingly alive and malevolent. The air was heavy with an oppressive silence, broken only by the sound of my own racing heartbeat. A rustling from the bushes jolted me from my thoughts. I turned, heart pounding, but found nothing but the swaying of branches. Doubt gnawed at my mind, planting seeds of paranoia. Was it all in my imagination, or was there truly something lurking just beyond my sight? Night after night, the disturbances escalated. The taps on the windows evolved into haunting whispers that echoed through the house. Faint laughter drifted in the air, chilling me to the bone. Objects moved on their own, defying the laws of logic. I became a mere pawn in a game orchestrated by an unseen malevolence. Sleep became an elusive dream, for nightmares plagued my every resting moment. In the depths of slumber, I found myself trapped in a twisted reality, a world where the forest whispered secrets and the darkness hungered for my soul. I would awaken, drenched in cold sweat, unsure if the nightmare had truly ended. The lines between reality and illusion blurred. I would catch glimpses of figures lurking in the shadows, their eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. The air grew thick with a presence that seemed to watch my every move. Faces would appear in mirrors, contorted with madness and longing. Desperation consumed me, driving me to seek answers in forbidden knowledge. In dusty tomes and ancient texts, I discovered the dark history of the cottage. It had been built atop an ancient burial ground, a resting place for restless spirits seeking revenge on the living. The realization sent a chill down my spine, for I had unwittingly opened a portal to their world. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I sought a way to appease the vengeful spirits. I performed rituals, lit incense, and recited incantations in a desperate bid for peace. But the spirits grew angrier, their presence intensifying as if offended by my feeble attempts at reconciliation. One fateful night, as I stood on the threshold of despair, the veil between the realms tore open. The spirits manifested before me, their ethereal forms twisted and tormented. They beckoned with ghostly hands, inviting me into their realm. Fear gripped my heart, but I knew I had no choice but to face the horrors head-on. As I stepped into the spectral realm, the air grew frigid, and the haunting wails of the spirits filled my ears. They circled me, their anguished cries a cacophony of suffering. I closed my eyes, bracing myself for the unknown, for the terrors that awaited. But instead of pain and torment, I felt a surge of compassion. I understood their anguish, their yearning for peace. With a trembling voice, I uttered words of empathy and understanding. Slowly, the spirits began to calm, their spectral forms fading into wisps of light. When I opened my eyes, I found myself back in the cottage, the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The haunting whispers were replaced by the gentle rustling of leaves in the wind. The spirits had found solace, and in turn, I had found my own redemption. But the echoes of that chilling horror still reverberate in my mind. They serve as a constant reminder that even in the darkest of nights, the human spirit can triumph over malevolent forces. And so, I share my tale, hoping to ward off the shadows that threaten to consume our souls. May you find strength in the face of fear, and may the terrors of the night never claim you as their own. The clock struck midnight, its resounding chime echoing through the empty corridors of my old Victorian home. I sat alone in the dimly lit living room, enveloped by a suffocating silence that seemed to stretch on for eternity. It was on nights like these that the true horrors of my existence revealed themselves, the shadows dancing malevolently along the walls. Ever since I moved into this house, strange occurrences had plagued my every waking moment. Whispers in the dead of night, objects moving on their own accord, and a perpetual feeling of being watched. It was as if an unseen presence had claimed this house long before I had ever set foot inside. The creak of the floorboards signaled its arrival. My heart quickened its pace, its rhythm matching the growing sense of unease that gripped my soul. The air grew heavy with an otherworldly chill, as if the room itself had turned into a portal to the abyss. I dared not look directly into the darkness that loomed at the edge of my vision. I knew that if I did, I would be met with a gaze that held the weight of centuries, a gaze that carried with it the essence of pure malevolence. Instead, I focused on the crackling fire in the hearth, its feeble flames flickering in defiance against the encroaching darkness. But my attempts to distract myself were futile, for the whispers grew louder, their insidious words slithering into the recesses of my mind. They spoke of forgotten sins and unspeakable horrors, weaving a tapestry of fear that threatened to unravel my sanity. Suddenly, a gust of wind extinguished the fire, plunging the room into complete darkness. Panic seized me, my heart racing as I fumbled for a source of light. But as I searched for solace, I felt a presence draw closer, its icy breath grazing the nape of my neck. I stood frozen, the darkness enveloping me like a shroud. A voice whispered in my ear, its tone laced with malice and despair. It whispered secrets that should never have been uttered, secrets that tore at the very fabric of my being. Trembling, I took a step backward, my foot landing on something cold and slimy. I stifled a scream as I realized it was a hand that reached out from the abyss, desperate for a grip on the world of the living. Its touch sent shivers down my spine, a visceral reminder of the horrors that lurked just beyond our perception. In a desperate attempt to escape, I ran through the darkness, blindly navigating the twisting hallways of the house. The whispers pursued me, their taunting words echoing in my ears. The walls seemed to shift and contort, leading me deeper into the labyrinth of nightmares. Finally, I stumbled upon a door, its surface worn and aged. With trembling hands, I turned the handle and stepped inside. The room revealed itself to be a study, filled with dusty books and ancient artifacts. But what caught my attention was the portrait that hung on the wall, a portrait of a figure shrouded in darkness, its eyes gleaming with an unholy light. As I stared at the painting, a realization washed over me: the figure was me. The horrors of this house had claimed not only its previous inhabitants but also their very essence, forever trapping them within its cursed walls. I was just another victim, another soul destined to roam this house for all eternity. The realization was suffocating, a crushing weight upon my chest. The whispers grew louder, their voices melding into a cacophony of despair. The darkness closed in, threatening to consume me whole. But even in the face of despair, a glimmer of defiance flickered within me. I refused to surrender my soul to this house, to become just another haunting presence. With all my strength, I mustered a scream that shattered the suffocating silence and reverberated through the house. As my scream echoed into the abyss, the darkness retreated, its grip weakening. The whispers faltered, their malevolent voices fading into nothingness. And in that moment, I felt a surge of liberation, a newfound resolve to escape this house of horrors. I ran through the hallways, guided by an instinct that defied reason. Finally, I burst through the front door, gasping for breath as the night air filled my lungs. The moon shone brightly overhead, its light a beacon of hope in the darkness. As I stood on the porch, my gaze returned to the house. It stood, a monument to the terrors that had plagued me. But I vowed never to return, never to let its malevolence consume me again. For nights to come, I would lie awake, haunted by the memories of the horrors I had witnessed. But I refused to let them define me. I would move forward, carrying with me the knowledge that evil can lurk in the most unsuspecting places. And as the sun rose on a new day, I walked away from that house, my steps filled with a newfound strength and resilience. The chilling horror of that night would forever be etched in my memory, a cautionary tale for those who dare to tempt the darkness.